Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Michael. I'm going to be your host for, I think this session is probably going to be around about the half-hour mark. Not a lot to cover, but again, hopefully you'll see the benefits of this session and how it can help to drive your payments in just that little bit quicker, making it a little bit easier for your customers to make that payment to you. So not directly linking to the bank accounts area, but linking to the banking within Sage. Right, so just before we get stuck into the webinar, a little bit of housekeeping. So as normal, you don't need a microphone for these sessions. If you do have one, it will be muted automatically if you've enabled it. That means if you've got any questions for us today, you'll need to pop them into the questions panel just as normal. To access that, you just click the little speech bubble icon, give it a click, it'll expand, and you'll have access to that box in the bottom right-hand corner. So that's where you can enter any comments or questions that you have for us. So it's available to you throughout the session today. So we'll keep your comments and your questions coming. Remember to click send, otherwise we won't get them. There is an opportunity to download a copy of today's slides as well via the handout option. So do take that opportunity. However, for these sessions, we have included a link on your follow-up email. And they'll also be available on our recordings page as well if you want to download that at a later stage. The slides themselves aren't details, they're not a detailed step-by-step guide, they're not meant to be. It's just to give us a little bit of structure to the webinar. If you want the detailed information, you will find that available from our help centre. So we'll cover that a little bit towards the end of the session. As normal, this session is being recorded. A link to the recording will be included on the follow-up email, which you'll receive round about an hour after we finish. And it'll also include links so you can register for our other upcoming webinars and so you can access our other recordings as well. So if you've missed any sessions, there's well over 100 sessions or recordings on there now. So do take that opportunity to use it. Now, as part of this Banking Excellence webinar series we're running 8 different topics. So it's session number 8 today. We've actually run through the other sessions already. We will be starting to repeat the sessions from tomorrow onwards. There's also the quiz as well. Now, for the Banking Excellence webinar series, you can earn a digital badge. Now, to obtain that and qualify for it, you will need to attend 6 of the first 8 different topics we are running. So any of those, plus one of the quiz sessions. So we'll be repeating the quiz as well. Hopefully that will give you a chance to qualify for that and give you that little bit of flexibility. If there's any sessions you've missed or you need a bit of a recap, recordings are available. But to qualify for the badge, you must attend the live sessions. Again, the link to register if you haven't already, it's all going to be included on the follow-up email. Right, let's have a look at what we're covering in today's session. So quite a short agenda today because it will mainly be demonstrations or a little bit of background to including things like your bank details on your invoices. We'll touch on obviously running through the demonstrations themselves. So looking at the basics of editing your invoice layout. Now we will be using an invoice layout today, but obviously it could equally be you want to include your bank details on your customer statement layouts, for instance. Maybe you want to include them on a quotation or a sales order, that type of thing. So we'll be looking at the basics of editing your layout and obviously the basic design tools that you have available as well to help you add those banking details onto your layout. Just at the end, we'll explain more about the additional support. And then if there are any outstanding questions, we'll try and pick those up as well. Today, we're joined by Jackie. Jackie's going to be in the background supporting those questions. So you may get a straightforward answer. It may be a link where we've got more detailed information available in our help center. Or if it is a bit more detailed, very specific to yourself, then she may encourage you to get in touch with our support team. But do keep us busy, keep your questions coming, do engage with us, and we'll try and pick as many of those up as we can. Right, now, just before I get started, I've got a little poll that, if you don't mind, I would like you to get involved with. So I'll pop that on your screen. Simple question. Have you used the Sage Report Designer before? We've run a number of webinars historically on the Report Designer, some great recordings available, whether you want to learn about email settings or such as adding your adding text to your invoice layouts or amending criteria and that type of thing for your reports. So we'll just be touching on really just scratching at the surface today of the report design. It's one of those areas where a lot of people start with the report designer, so either adding your logo or maybe adding a bit of text that's missing. Bank details is a good one. Right, excellent. I can see loads of you voting there, so that's great. As I say, do keep engaging with us. Right, we'll just close the poll just at that point. So let me quickly share the results with you as well. So we like to show you these as well. So we've got about 62% of you that did vote there, saying that you have used Report Designer before. If you have, I think you'll find this really, really straightforward. It might just be a bit of a reminder for you, and you may have used a lot of it beyond what we're going to cover today. Others, where you've not touched it before, Report Designer can look a little bit daunting, and I'm sure that those of you that have used it before will remember that when you first go into the Report Designer. But we're just going to cover one of the basics today, adding a bit of text to your layout. Right, let's hide that poll and we'll crack on. So as far as the Report Designer before, really for those of you that have never touched it before, maybe you haven't touched it for a while, the Report Designer, it almost feels like a different part of the software. It's a really powerful tool that's included with Sage 50 accounts and enables you to create and amend layouts and reports in your software. So if you find a report or a layout that's not quite what you want and you think, oh, I need to include this information, or I want the information in a slightly different order, or maybe there's information on a report or a layout that you don't want, you can use the Report Designer generally to amend that. Now, when it comes to things like invoice layouts, if you are thinking about, oh, well, I want to design my own, I would say maybe don't do that. Find a layout that's close to what you want. We've actually got some layouts, and we'll see that in a moment, that actually, as a standard layouts, that will now pull your banking information through onto the invoice. So see there what you're after. So probably what I suppose that when it comes to report design, the best bit of advice we generally give is don't reinvent the wheel. There's loads of reports and layouts there. So find a one that's close to what you want, and if needed, then start amending that one. But have a look at your layouts in your reports, particularly your invoice layout. Have a look at it. Is there any information that might be missing from that? So banking information, which we're covering today, yeah, we'll be adding a bit of text, but is there any other information that's missing? Have a look at an invoice that you've received. Is there any information on there, or maybe design aspects of that invoice that you like? So it's things like telephone numbers, contact details, email addresses, website addresses, maybe text that revolves around your special offers or services and new product ranges that you offer. So maybe adding a little bit of marketing to your invoices. So it gives you, hopefully what you'll find out today, it just gives you a little bit of scope going forward, get you thinking a little bit about your invoices and what you can do with it. Loads of resources to help you as well. As I say, there's quite a few webinar recordings on the report design area. We did run a digital badge series on the report design last year. So again, check those out if you've never really used it before. Or, as a few of you have mentioned in the chat, so Helen, you mentioned a long time ago, and Sandra, you mentioned you haven't used it since about 2018. So not a lot has really changed with the report designer, but it is really, really powerful. May look a little bit different here and there as well if you haven't used it for quite some time. But there's loads of resources online, and obviously our support team's there to assist here and there as well. So let's get stuck in with adding your bank information to your invoices. As I mentioned, it's one of those starting points. So two things normally that people look at when they first start looking at the invoices: how do I add my logo, and how can I add my bank details to the bottom, so that my customers receive that information. I don't have to send them a separate document or anything like that. It just includes that information. They've then got that information. It saves them making that phone call to me to say, right, well, actually, can I just pay you online? You're providing that information up front automatically without even thinking about it. Now, I have included a link there to our help articles on which will guide you through that process if you need that step-by-step guide. So we're going to look at the standard layouts. So the standard layouts that I can pull your bank details through have been around for a little while now. A few versions ago they were introduced. But you can, of course, edit your existing layout. But if you haven't yet sort of settled on one of them, then a good opportunity to maybe cut a corner here and just use one of the standard ones that pulls your bank details through automatically. Right, let's get stuck into some demonstrations then. So we'll look at the basics of editing your layout and also the design tools as well. Right, across to my screen and we'll get stuck in with some demos. Now, if we first of all pop into the bank accounts area, and within each of your bank records, so we'll just pick on the current account today, you have, within each record, you'll have a bank details tab. And in the bank details tab, you've got an area where you can enter the account details. So the name of the account number, and also the sort code. That's the type of information that you're going to need to provide so your customers can pay you online. Now, some of the standard layouts that are included in Sage will pull that information through. So we'll have a look at sort of both options for that. So we'll just close out, but that's where you would do it, within your bank record, onto the bank details tab, and then you've got these three fields here. That's the information that you're going to need to provide. So we'll just close out for the time being. If we go into invoices and credits, and I've got an invoice here, quite a few that we've already entered. I'm not going to bore you with actually entering an invoice, but if I just open it, just so you can see the basics of what I've entered. And on the payment tab, you've got this bank account number. So this is saying, right, this is the bank account that I want to associate that invoice with. So if you've got different layouts, and let's say you had sort of retail customers and trade customers, you might have different bank accounts depending which customer it is that you're invoicing. So this is the field here that determines if you are going to get it to pull your banking information through onto your invoices rather than just adding a bit of text. This is the field here that determines which of the bank records it's going to pull that from. So you could just click from the drop down and select the appropriate one if applicable. So in this case, it's going to pull it through from account 1200. Now, if we get back to just the invoices list, and with that one still selected, I'm going to go into print. And it's highlighting my favorites folder. I've flagged them as favorites, the one that do say with bank details as part of that description. But they are available just obviously on the layouts list. So it's just a case of working through and finding those default ones. Now, some of you who've already designed your layout, you're probably not going to go down this route. For others that maybe haven't settled on an invoice layout, then this is a good option for you. We just select one. So this is in one designed for A4 stationery. It says with bank details. So if I just preview that, just so you can see what that looks like. So that's the invoice that I had entered that we just looked at a moment ago. And at the bottom of the layout where you've got your totals, you've got your delivery address, but over here on the left here, you can see it pulls through the bank account details. It's just pulling that through automatically. And that means if my bank account details change, if I change it within then the record and the bank details tab, it would automatically pull through the correct bank details again. So that's something to be aware of as well. So if you go and add your information onto your invoice layout as a bit of text, if your bank details subsequently change, you need to go in and edit that text again, just to update it. Easily enough done, as you'll see in just a moment. But there's two standard layouts which will pull this banking information through automatically. So that's one way of doing it. Right, let's look at a different way of doing that. And what I'll do with this one, I'll just use this one above, which is an A4 invoice credit discount, plain paper. Now if I just preview this one, so it's the same invoice that we'd selected, but if we scroll down to the bottom, you can see actually we don't include any bank details on this one. So we'll use this one, we'll edit it, and we'll add some basic details in there. Now we can, if we want to, we can click edit at the top, and that will take us into the report designer and specifically the design of this layout. Or just from the list of layouts, we can find the one we're after. And with it selected, we can then just click edit at the top. So we just edit that, opens the report designer. And this is where I mentioned for those of you that, so the 38% of you that said, no, I haven't used the report designer before, you'll probably look at this and think, whoa, where do I start with this? So again, start with the basics, add a bit of text, maybe add your logo. So we're going to concentrate on adding a bit of text. Now, if I just scroll that up, basically we'll just cover the basics of an invoice layout. So we got what we term our invoice number header section. So the top information that from the invoice itself. So things like it's going to pull through our company name and address. You see it pulls through telephone number, email address, VAT registration number. It's got an area here where it pulls through the customer's name and address. Basic information about things like the invoice number, the date, account number, etc. We've got some headings on here as well. If we scroll down, you can see sort of I suppose the complicated part of the invoice, which is one of the reasons I would say don't reinvent the wheel, find the layout that's closest to what you want and then amend it. So rather than you start from scratch and have to add in sections like this, just find the layout that's really close to what you want and then you can start tweaking information. If we scroll down to the bottom, you can see we've got a section here for our totals. We've got the delivery options, so where it would pull through like delivery name and address. And currently we've got some payment due terms as well. Now, what I'm going to do for these ones, I'll get rid of that for the time being. So literally, if I wanted to rid of something, I would just click on it and I could just press delete on the keyboard. However, if I just wanted to simply move it, I can click on it to highlight it, and then I could just drag it with the mouse. Again, this is the kind of thing that's sort of the basics. They're covered in our recorded webinars. So again, do check those out. For this terms, what we term a data field, I'm just going to highlight it, click delete on the keyboard just to remove it. So I've got a bit of a space here where I want to put my bank details in there. I might put a little bit of text in there as well to pay us online. These are the details you need. And then we'll just add some basic text in there as well. So I've got a bit of space here. If you don't use the delivery address, the name and address, you could get rid of that as well if you wanted to. So again, you would just sort of highlight it, press delete on your keyboard, it would remove it to free up a bit of space. But we're going to add it, as you saw in the other layouts, we're going to add it just beneath that. Jackie, you were mentioning why you're not seeing any participants' questions. You'll only see them. You'll not see everyone's questions. What you'll find is that's very distracting normally if you see everyone's questions. So you'll see the ones that we think are worthwhile where we've answered it and where we provided an answer where it's a bit more of a generic question. So I think Jackie's just possibly got... We do get a lot of feedback, so if you were to see the 20, 30 questions or even more that typically come through on a webinar, you would find it very, very distracting. Right, anyway, let's move on. We're going to add in our bank details here. So to add that, what I'm going to do, just on my toolbar at the top here, we've got an option that says add text. Now, if you can't see that on the toolbar, you can just go to the toolbox menu and you have an option on here, add text. So both will essentially do exactly the same thing. So we'll just select it from the toolbar. So click it, and then we move our mouse to roughly where we want to insert that bit of text. You'll see we get that big the cross in bold there. And we just literally click. Don't worry about the positioning too much. All we want to do is we make sure we get the right text in at this point. I'm not worried about positioning or font or style or anything like that at this stage. I just want the right text to be in there. See if I can type this without any typos today as well. So we'll say Pierce online using the following bank details. Oh, nearly got to the end. And we could just leave that first line as that if we wanted. We might come on and start adding additional lines, or if we just wrap down to the next line, and we can do account name. We'll pop that in as well. So this method, I'm just adding text onto it. So it'll be the same thing every time we generate an invoice using this layout. So we're going to call it Sage Demo Limited. And we'll do account number. I'll pop a random number in there. And then again, I'll just drop down to the next line and we'll do sort code. So we got enough information on there now to be able to, for essentially a customer to be able to pay us. Now, if I was happy with that, I could just click off that and that's it done. But it doesn't look the same as the other text here. And maybe it's not quite in position either. So what I'll do is I'm just going to click onto this bit of text here, this one that says total discount. And you can see it's in a bit of a bold font, this one. So you can see at the top when we select it, it's in bold, it's Tahoma size 10, and in this case, it's right aligned as well. It's also, it uses what we term the style header 2. Now, if I click onto my text, you can see it uses a different font. Size is 10, but it's not in bold either. So what I can do, I want to make sure it's the same font as, let's say, total discount. All I need to do with this one selected, so I can see it's selected, it's got the buttons around it. All I need to do is reselect header 2 from that drop down. So I get the same style, so we'd now use the same font, size, etc., and apply it to this text here at the bottom. Now, for those of you with an eagle eye, if I just click off it, you'll see that the text is now, it's too big to fit in that box. Now, I could have just changed that text manually as well, by the way. I could have chosen a font and a style and changed the color if I wanted to. But you can see at this stage, because it's now in bold, that text doesn't quite fit in that box that I entered. Now, I can do two things at this point. I can click onto the box and I could point and drag the button across to the right just to make the box that little bit wider. The other way I can do that though is literally just double click it and it'll auto size the box for us. So it puts it to the minimum width needed to display that text. It would do the same for the height as well if required. So that's now got a bit of consistency there. It's going to look the same as these bits of text here for the total area. If we maybe think, well, actually we didn't want it in bold, what we could have done is we could have highlighted the likes of the delivery name, and you can see that's header 1. So we could have clicked on that one and just chosen header 1 from the drop down. And it'll now be the same font as anything that printed in this area. But I'm going to leave it set to header 2, so I'm going to put it in back to header 2, use that style, and that's it done. Now, as far as positioning is concerned, I can do one of two things. I can click on it, and I can literally drag that box around with the mouse. And you'll see as I move that, if I move it a little bit slower, you'll see that we get these blue sort of alignment guides. So I just drag that slowly across to the left there. you'll see that when it's sort of the left edge of the box that I'm dragging aligns to the delivery address above, you'll see that line goes on there. So it just gives me a rough idea of the alignment. I've got other alignment options within there as well. So I've got some tools, and if you find that you can't quite get it in the right position, maybe your mouse is a little bit too sensitive, what you can do is just click onto it and then just use your cursor keys on your keyboard just to move it around. So just to nudge it into position. Now you don't get those highlight, sort of the alignment guides if you're just nudging it using the cursor keys. But once you're happy with it, you just click off it, and that's essentially it done. So if I just click on the preview option at the bottom here, and if I just scroll down to the bottom of one of my invoices, that's quite a big one, this one. And you can see it pulls that information through. Now that might be a little bit of trial and error for you. So just getting it into the right position, making it look right. Maybe you want the bit of text sort of appears online using the following details. Maybe you want that in bold, but not the rest of it. That's fine. You could always add different text objects if you wanted to. So you can add as many different text objects as you want. So I hope that makes sense. If I just go back to the design mode, or designer mode, I should say, takes me back to that layout. So just to confirm, and just to obviously reiterate what I've done, we've gone in to edit the layout, and all we've done is we've found a gap, in this case at the bottom, and we just click add text, and then we clicked approximately where we want to insert the text. So I just quickly do that, and then we started typing. If you're happy with that, that's fine, just click off it. If not, you can always drag it with the mouse, and obviously we set the style as well, just so you got that little bit of consistency. I'm sure you've seen documents where you see font styles and sizes and even colors. It's all over the place and it looks dreadful. So you've got that bit more professional looking when you've got that consistency. So if you want to get it the same, just click onto something. You think, well, the deliver to bit of text at the top there. I want it to look like that one. So if you click on it, it'll tell you what the style is that's attached. Then just click onto yours at the bottom and then select it from the style drop down. Let me just get rid of that text that I just popped in there. Right, now just to sort of finish off that process, if you want to, you can go then to report, into, let's try that one again, mouse is a bit sensitive there. So onto the report menu, we'll go to report properties. You can see this is where it displays the report name and description. I'll put my name in. And I'll change the description as well. Don't have to do that, but it just makes it that bit easier to spot it on your list. So we'll just OK that. So that was just report properties. And then finally, I'm just going to go to File. Now you'll see on my case, the Save option is grayed out, and that's because I've amended one of the standard layouts. So you can't save over the top of an existing, like a standard layout. If you've already done this, you'll find that save will be available because you're just saving changes to your layout. So what I've got to do, because I've amended a standard layout, is choose the Save As option. So whatever you want to call it, just call it, put my initials in, just put 1, 2, 3 on the end, whatever you want to call it file name wise. Don't worry about where you're saving it. It will default to the correct layout. So all you need to do, just give it a file name, click Save, that's it done. If I close out of the report designer, and all I would need to do, just close out. If I go back into the print menu, back into layouts, and it's just a case of finding it on the list. So that's the one there. invoice including bank detail. You can see I've done this before. I think the last time we ran this session was for obviously a Christmas, on the run up to Christmas, but we got mine there. So if I want to make that my favorite, just click on the little star. It'll add it to the favorites menu. It means when I come into print, because it defaults to the favorites folder, I can easily find it a bit easier for myself rather than going into here and then thinking, right, which one is it again? So just pop it into favorites just by clicking the little star, get rid of these two, and I'm just left with that one at that point. But that's it done. That's how easy it is to add a bit of text to your layout. So yes, we covered bank details today, but remember you could use that for anything. It could be telephone numbers, fax numbers, if anyone still uses faxes, email addresses, website addresses. Someone mentioned about certification details. It might be new product ranges that you've got special deals on, new services that you offer. So adding that bit of text and just saying, right, we now offer this service. So a little bit of marketing on your emails almost. So you can use it for a number of options. But again, have a good look at your invoices. Is there anything missing? Do you get any phone calls relating to your invoices asking for information? So could you provide that information on your invoice by default? May just save a little bit of time. And obviously, including that, it just means it's easier for your customers to pay you. They've got that detail up front. Right, we're going to open up the questions. I'll get involved with those questions in a moment. We've picked a few up. You kept Jackie very busy already, but I'll try and pick up some of those in a few minutes as well. We just head back to the slides just for a moment. So again, any questions that you might have, pop them in there. So if you weren't quite with us at the start of the session, you just need to click the little speech bubble icon, give it a click. You'll then have access to that little text box in the bottom right hand corner then. So pop your comments, your questions in there, click send. We'll try and pick them up in just a moment. Now, I did mention the Help Center earlier as well. Loads of information in there for reports and layouts. So if you're just really starting your journey for using the report designer, so it is something a little bit different. As I say, it can be a little bit overwhelming when you first start using it, or even when you've used it a long time. It's so powerful, sometimes you get a little bit lost in there, but there's some great information available in our Help Center. So just head along to sage.co.uk/help. There's guides in there, you'll have access to webinars or videos, and if you can't find what you're after, it'll try and guide you the best way to get in touch with our support team as well. Now, if anyone would like training which is more on a bespoke to yourself, more on a one-to-one basis, we do now offer that. It could be on absolutely anything, whether it is report designer or maybe it's a new area of the software that maybe your company's just about to start using. Maybe it's an area that you've used for a long time and you just think, actually, I'd like some training for me and my colleagues. It can be on a one-to-one or a one-to-many basis, just to consolidate your knowledge of a certain area. It would be chargeable when it's that type of training, but if you are interested, all you need to do, just drop an email to uki@sageuniversity@sage.com. And they can set the ball rolling, prices, etc. Now, do remember, we mentioned this one at the beginning. There are the 8 banking webinar topics for the banking badge. To qualify for the badge, and I've been chased for this already, you will need to attend a minimum of 6 of the 8 topics, plus one of the quiz sessions. So we're running 2 of each session, including 2 of the quizzes as well. So you'll receive that badge normally within about 2 weeks of us finishing the webinar series, which is Thursday next week. So watch out for that. Just before we get stuck into the questions, let me quickly take the opportunity to thank you for coming along. I hope you've enjoyed it, giving you a little bit of insight into that report designer, helping you to get paid potentially that little bit quicker, that little bit easier as well. You don't need to get involved with that. You're providing that detail up front with a customer. So again, avoiding those phone calls that just rob you of your time. Get it on there. Now, there'll be a little survey pop up as you leave today's session. If you can take a minute to complete that, it'd be greatly appreciated. What you thought of the webinar, thoughts, ideas, topics you'd like to see covered going forward, pop it on there. If you can take a minute to do that, it'd be greatly appreciated. We love reading those comments. Your follow-up email, which will contain a link to today's recording. It will contain a link so you can register for our other webinars, including the banking series. And also so you can watch recordings as well. So if you have missed any sessions, that's where you'll find them. So you get that around about an hour's time. So if you're about to leave, many thanks for coming along. I hope you have enjoyed it. And hopefully we'll see you next time. For those of you hanging around for questions, I'll quickly run through some. So we've got a question from Stephen there. So Stephen's question, really good question, this one, Stephen, as well. I was expecting someone to ask this. It's a bit of a, well, we'll start with the basics first. Your layouts, if you do amend a layout, let me just share my screen a second. So if you amend a layout, so let's say I'm working on data that's held on a server. So for any PC that's then connected directly to that data on a server, everyone would see those changes that I've made. So when they come into print an invoice, they go into the layouts, they would see exactly the same list of layouts that I have. So if I make any changes to those, that's fine. So all my colleagues that work directly on a PC that links to that data on the server, the layouts would be the same. So I only need to do that once. If anyone uses remote data access, which is what Stephen's question relates to, what we used to term, well, it's now called remote data access. It used to be called Sage Drive. So if anyone uses remote data access, where essentially a copy of your data is in the cloud, so you still got local data, but essentially any changes are pushed back and forwards via the cloud, meaning that people can work from different locations. So in that sort of scenario, where you're working essentially remotely, if, let's say I was in the office and I make a change to a layout, and then I do a save as, so I've got a new file. That change would then be synced with all the other PCs. So anyone that accesses the data would have the same change. If I was to subsequently edit that layout again, then the change wouldn't sync. It's got to be a material change to something like the file name. That's the difference. That would push the change to the layout then. But what you can do in that sort of scenario is, if I was in the office, I could back up the layouts only and send that to my colleagues, or I could just copy the actual invoice layout file itself. So copy that and just send it to my colleague. So remember, I saved mine as was it MC123? Probably the easiest way to get at that would be for me within my software, just go to help, about, just let that load. I'm looking for my data directory. So it's in this sort of program details section, into the data directory. And in here, and you can see mine's on the C drive. Obviously, I'm just on my laptop, but if I was connected to data on a server, it would have the appropriate path at the top. But we got this layouts folder. And if I just go into that one, what I'd be looking for is that specific file. So there it is there, MC123. You can see it's got today's date on. And about 10 minutes ago, when I saved it now, obviously been chatting away there for a while, I would just need to, essentially I could just copy that file, email that to my colleague who's working at a different location. They would copy it into their layouts folder, and then that would be available within their software as well. But ordinarily, the first time you make that change, the change will sync. So your colleague would automatically have that, and vice versa. Sandra, you had a question there as well. You mentioned you'd love a webinar on fixed assets and all projects. Good news for you there, Sandra. If you do check out the recordings, there's some on there. So when you get your follow-up email, have a look at that. And I think there's 3 on projects. Split it down into 3 different sections. So do check that out when you get your follow-up email, which will be about an hour's time. Any additional questions? I think you've kept Jackie really busy and she's been on top of them. So she's picked up the majority that are outstanding there. If you think of anything afterwards, though, remember loads of information in our help centre, and our support team is on hand if you struggle, or you just think I just need that hand holding through a particular process. Do get in touch. Right, quick question from Cheryl there as well. I think we got a crossed wire there, Cheryl. So let me try and pick that one up for you. Let's have a quick look at what the question's saying. So Cheryl was just asking about emailing invoices. You're not really going to be able to do that, Cheryl. If you wanted to type in a message here and there, depends which email software you integrate with. If it's Outlook, then you can amend your invoice layout so that it doesn't send automatically. So when you output an invoice to email, it will save that as a draft, either normally in your drafts folder or in your inbox, depending on how you've got your email settings configured. But it's all to do with, have you got it flagged to send it immediately or not? If you don't have it sent to flag immediately, again, that's something that's covered in the email webinar recordings. Do check those out. Then it gives you that opportunity to, it'll generate the email for you with a PDF copy attached, and you'll be able to amend that message before you then click send. Gives you that opportunity to personalize it a little bit and send that additional text. I'm assuming that's what you mean there, Cheryl. If not, can you just drop me an email, please? Just reply to any of the webinar emails that will come direct to myself, and I'll contact you that way. Right, okay, we'll end the webinar just at that point. Once again, many thanks for coming along today. I hope you have enjoyed it. For some of you, you might still feel a little bit daunted by going into the report designer. Give it a go. Give it a go. Remember, you can always do a save as. If you make any changes and you think, oh, I'm not sure, do a save as. Do a save as before you even start making any changes. Work on the copy, but give it a go. Do take that minute to complete the survey as you leave, and watch out for your follow-up email. Hopefully we'll see you again soon. Many thanks.